2024 was an absolutely apocalyptic year for the games industry and, well, frankly, entertainment in general. It is when we saw Star Wars finally die after having been long abused by Disney year after year, and it saw massive flops in the video games industry, including several half-decade-long development stories video games releasing and then falling so flat on their faces that they are threatening studios' existence, and in some cases just simply outright murdering them. And when it comes to people actually employed within the games industry, it was a rough year with significant layoffs. But there was one section that actually saw growth. The 13th annual GDC State of the Games Industry Report highlights a year of layoffs and diversity gains. Oh, it's metastasizing. As whilst the games industry may now have started to, find a problem, they are still only treating the symptoms, it seems, as the underlying illness remains uncured. Now, this is based on 3,000 people, so there's ample opportunity for oversampling, undersampling, and so on. And when they say worldwide, they mean the West, really, rather than actually worldwide. Yet, nevertheless, it is an interesting little thing to look at. So, 41% of developers were affected by layoffs during 2024. I don't know why they write 2025 here. But the more immediately funny part, diversity gains momentum. Oh, wow. What a coinky-dinky-winky that is. The worst year in gaming's history, seeing the largest number of layoffs, well, ever, is also one in which the diversity is surging. I wonder if there could be some sort of connection between the two. Who knows? A bright spot in this year's report, question mark, is the growing diversity among games developers. Women and non-binary individuals now make up 32% of the workforce, compared to 29% last year, and 24% in 2022. Similar, LGBTQ representation continues to rise with 25% of developers identifying as LGBTQ, up from 21 in 2024. Again, years. Is it really a representation anymore if they're making up a quarter of the total pool? And, more interestingly still, among developers 18 to 24, 43% identify as LGBTQ+. An impressive leap for representation. We are so represented now, we make up nearly half of the total. Representation or dominance is the question, and 43%. I just wanna quickly illustrate what this looks like as well. I know, of course, in case you were wondering, these are, of course, insane percentages, as this comes from America, but we'll probably show this is roughly representative, right? Despite a massively increasing curve as it becomes more and more popular and politically expedient to identify a certain way, we're still only at 7.6% in 2023. And here we are at 43% of games developers surveyed between 18 and 24 identifying as LGBTQ. Now, incidentally, a lot of this isn't the lesbian or the gay or the bi or even the trans, but the Q, the queer part. See, queer no longer means basically gay. Instead, queer has kind of become a term for an indoctrinated ally, shall we say. It's what somebody says when they're not actually gay, they're not actually lesbian or necessarily even bi, but they're on your side, you know? Oh, hey, what are your pronouns and sexuality, asks the Inquisition, and you respond, he, him, but I'm queer. That is what it means, though. It means ally. That is the meaning of queer now. As you see people, I swear to God, you can go on Twitter and you see people that are obviously the gender they're talking about with the pronouns she, her, for example, obvious woman, and queer, or obvious man, he, him, queer. It is literally just the little red armband at this point to signify the tribe that you belong to. Especially as, again, Jesus, hi. There were even some increases in racial representation as well. East, South, or Southeast Asia now make 16% of the workforce. Hispano-Latin developers represent 10%, and Black and African and Caribbean developers account 3%. These shifts contribute to a decrease in the number of respondents identifying as white or Caucasian. I didn't know there was a difference. From 64% to 59% this year. And notice as well, the percentage shift here is tiny compared to the percentage shift in diversity there, because whilst you can't change your skin color yet, although many have tried, you can call yourself a ally, a queer ally. Now, they talk about some other things here as well, like generative AI, for example, which should be polarizing within gaming because it's going to make the vast majority of developers, frankly, obsolete, honestly. There are going to be some studios remaining, but honestly, a lot of programmers, a lot of people working on this, a whole lot of script writers are going to find themselves without a job if we ever actually manage to make proper generative AI, although I don't really know if they know what that means entirely, but details. So, these numbers right here. DEI, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Programs, is probably responsible for a lot of this. And the fact that the companies themselves have actively been seeking out people with the correct alphabet group identification so as to increase their own things like ESG score, and simply just to virtue signal within the industry. We employ 20% queers. Oh, well, we employ 30% queers. Oh, well, we have 43% queers over here, and so on. It's a virtue signal, and a way to demonstrate to the rest of the industry that you are a very progressive company, that you are on side with whatever's currently going on. It also, of course, means that they have been specifically hiring people who aren't the best for the job. I think that's pretty obvious. If we take these numbers again to be roughly representative, it seems awfully weird that 5 times the regular number of the population who just so happen to be LGBTQ decides to join the games industry, of all things. What? No openings in ditch digging for you? No openings in construction work? God, I love this. Because, again, this is absolutely the reason why gaming is failing as hard as it does, okay? Back in the day, when we were making games, it was difficult for games developers. You had to solve problems, you had to construct engines. A video game was a tottering tower, barely stable, okay? That's the reason why a lot of the old games aren't getting remasters anywhere near as easily or as quickly as the newer games, because nobody really quite knows how the damn things work anymore, and touching those engines or the source code could lead to all kinds of horrible things, frankly, as they're not entirely sure how everything is taped together. As now, you have generations of game developers that are basically raised on the Unreal Engine. That's all they know. It's what they were taught in school. It's what they expect to work with. This is the reason why so many companies are switching over to Unreal, by the way, because, well, the entire crop of new hires are already used to the Unreal Engine, and they are too dumb and or lazy to learn anything else. Whereas back in the good old days, well, you had to problem solve. You had this custom-made, janky, weird thing that nobody quite understood how work, and the moment one programmer leaves, the rest of them are looking at the spaghetti code and going, how on God's good? it encouraged problem-solving skills, and problem-solving skills in turn encourage creative thinking. It encourages the ability to look at a problem and find creative solutions around it. Like, okay, we can't actually have all of the characters, like, do a certain action, like in a strategy game. We can't have all of the characters fighting at the same time. So how do we figure out which one of these two large units of troops actually win? Well, we can do little roundabouts, little workarounds. We're going to have everybody have one hit point, like in Medieval, for example, because they hadn't really got a system for mini hit points, and then we're just going to tweak around the defensive stat of them instead, via the enemy's weapon stat. And that actually worked out a lot better than the HP solution, which is in the current Total War games, which is a far lazier solution to the exact same problem, which leads to ridiculous scenarios like shooting at a unit with an entire group of archers, for example. First volley does nothing, second volley does nothing, third volley, a quarter of the unit falls over dead because you have depleted their arbitrary hit point pool, rather than trying to simulate their ability to raise their shields, to ward off arrows, to get out of the way, and so on. This is a reason behind so much of gaming's current failures, and its inability to innovate, to grow and do different things. I mean, look at the year 2000. Like, every other title was something wild or crazy or trying something new. The games industry reinvented itself every 2 or 3 years, goddammit. Either graphically or mechanically, or with the introduction of something new and interesting. Now, I mean, how many Call of Duties are we on at this point? Most of our video games are now stagnant, and in the best case they are stagnant in that they are some sort of looter-shooter video game, a live service thing which everybody is now chasing. The infinite money pig, where they don't actually have to do anything year after year. They can just push out a new Snoop Dogg costume, or get a collaboration with another video game. Like, hey, we've got new skins now. Oh, fantastic. Meanwhile, again, back in the day, everything was about revolution, reinventing oneself. In fact, it was actually a complaint back then. I shit you not. There was actually a complaint amongst gamers that gaming was reinventing itself too often, trying too much new stuff, and failing to maintain the basic, the fundamental doctrine. Occasionally games would be so desperate to try something new that they'd throw in a mechanic that just didn't make sense, or go like, oh hey, what if we just rebound all of these random keys for no reason? Like, the old saying is so true here. Innovation is good, but it should always be firmly rooted in an understanding of doctrine. Then you may innovate. Whereas the games industry appears to be a tale of two extremes. Either we don't do anything new, or we do too much of it. Frankly, I still prefer the latter, for obvious reasons. But I just thought this was really, really funny. The year in which the games industry begins to die beyond all doubt is also its most diverse. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.